Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
I think being the last session of the day has its own disadvantages, but it also has an advantage. We have the Minister of State here as an audience. I'm reaching out to the student community there who are patiently here. So please give us some noise. We have, we are actually amazed by the kind of, the long list of eminent personalities from the maritime sector which the week has got together. And each of them have put so much on our plate that today it has been, a veritable feast of what is what and who is who, coming from the who is who in the maritime sector. Without much delay, I'll quickly go through this session. So this panel discussion is on sustainable port modernization. So considering that, the port capacity building has been going at an amazing level, and considering that there has been an 80+% rise in the cargo movement in the last 10 years, we think we can, wind up with this session on port modernization, what is sustainable port modernization, and a touch on what green shipping practices would be. So I would like to quickly introduce our eminent panelists. Mr. Sushil Kumar Singh, IRSME of the chairman of Deen Dayal Port. He assumed charge recently and he has been making tangible progress in the port's growth story. Prior to this, he served as Joint Secretary Ports. And in his role, he has looked after port modernization, automation, mechanization, green port initiatives, and PPP for the last 12, for the 12 major ports. And we also have Professor Nalle Arasu from Ocean Engineering Department. He is the Professor and Head of Ocean Engineering Department, IIT Madras. Total of 35 years of experience in port, harbour, offshore industry, research and teaching. He's working on research areas related to offshore and coastal structures. He spent a considerable period of time in the industry in Singapore before joining academics here at IIT. Currently, he is involved in several mega projects in the country, including the Wadhavan Port and the Galatia Bay Transshipment Port and other port projects. In fact, I was blown by the number of port projects he has actually been involved in. And we also have with us a person from the private sector and Mr. Naveen Prakash, Director at Global Logistics Solutions India, Chennai. Naveen is a logistics professional and entrepreneur with 2 decades of experience in freight forwarding and logistics. He is also the co-founder of Global Logistics. It's a company primarily engaged in LCL consolidation since its inception. He's been leading the Consolidators Association of India Chennai chapter as a president for the last 10 years. So with his network of over 1,000 LCL consolidators globally, he has good insight about the industries, the opportunities and challenges. So straight away, let me just go to the port chairman. In fact, he has a flight to catch. Sir, how do you see energy transition taking shape in the maritime sector in the coming years? What kind of sustainability and decarbonization initiatives will drive the energy switch? Are we on track to set the set objectives?
So thank you. So let me share some numbers here before we start the discussion. So as you all must be knowing that there are around 38,000 vessels deployed in international trade, and on an average the annual consumption of fuel or the fuel that they burn together is around 200+ million tons of conventional fossil fuel. On the emission side, they push around 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent into the atmosphere every year. Going by the estimates, this maritime international trade is likely to increase by 2050 by a percentage ranging somewhere between 45% and 115%, vis-a-vis the baseline of 2020. And this increase in maritime trade is again going to translate into the increase in GHG gas emissions. That would increase somewhere in the range that has been estimated between 50% to 250% with the baseline of 2008. Now, even with the worst case scenario or the best case scenario of increase in the GHG emission by only 50%, vis-a-vis the baseline of 2008, this is also a serious cause of concern because the strategy that, or the roadmap that has been adopted for limiting the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade from the pre-industrial levels. So maybe we will be tipping that point, and the situation may become out of control. So IMO has outlined a greenhouse gas strategy wherein it has targeted that for maritime sector by 2050 it will be achieving net zero. They have also indicated some intermediate checkpoints, like in 2020 the reduction in the GHG emission is to be around 20%, striving for 30%. Similarly for 2040, 70%, striving for 80%, and 2050 we achieve net zero. So that is the strategy that is in place, that has been defined by IMO, and all the stakeholders of maritime sector have to follow that strategy or take action to be on the what you call road to the roadmap that has been defined by the IMO. We have to follow that roadmap. Now, this creates a situation where all the stakeholders have to adopt immediately comprehensive measures which include short-term measures, medium-term measures, and long-term measures. On the short-term side, the energy efficiency measures need to be adopted immediately. When we talk of energy efficiency measures, the levers like what you call slow steaming and cleaning of the hulls, more frequent cleaning of the propellers, friction management, voyage planning, optimization of your weather routing and just-in-time arrival, and all those in adoption of energy efficient technologies on board for the ships. So these are the energy efficiency measures which need to be adopted by the shipping lines on an immediate basis. But then these have their own limitations in terms of the potential that they offer for total reduction in GHG emission. So therefore, adoption of alternative fuels, the low carbon or zero carbon fuels, as we call it, becomes essential. Now, adoption of low carbon or zero carbon fuel, we have been talking of methanol, green ammonia, green hydrogen and its derivatives. Now, the adoption of these kind of fuels also throws up its own set of challenges in terms of affordability, acceptability and availability. Affordability, you all know that the cost of the alternative fuel is projected to be around 2.5 to 3 times of the fossil fuel. Availability is again an issue. For example, for a net zero scenario by 2050, the green hydrogen that will be required only for maritime sector will be 46 million tons per annum. Now, 73% of it will go into production of green ammonia, 17% will go into production of green methanol, and rest will be combusted in the engine, or it will be what you call passed through the fuel cell and generate power. But then this will require deployment of more than 580 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity around the world. Just to give you an idea, the kind of scaling that would be involved, today we have only around 1.75 gigawatt of electrolyzer capacity installed throughout the world, so all across the world. So from 1.75 gigawatt as it exists today, to achieve a net zero, achieving 585 plus gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity. So that again is a thing that a lot of investment will have to go into creation of capacities, creation of supply chains and all those things. So this again is an area of concern. So scaling up of availability of fuel and improving the affordability of the fuel by reducing the price gap between the fossil fuel and the alternative fuel. These are the two factors that will decide how fast and how quick we transient from a fossil fuel based transportation system to a what you call alternative low carbon or clean fuel what you call transportation ecosystem. So India also will have to work on these 2 points, affordability and availability. So that is my what you call understanding of this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So Professor Nalayar, so just to give you a perspective, there are some statistics on this port's capacity building. The total cargo handled by major Indian ports rose from 871.52 million tons to 1629.86 million tons, marking an 87% increase in the last 10 years, 2014 to 2024. So this calls for some heavy duty infrastructure building. So Professor, what is your take on infrastructure development that will ensure sustainability, that will look into the future? Considering that you are involved in myriad projects which are involved in infrastructure building for our port sector, what is your expert opinion on this?
Thank you, madam. It's a very interesting question. Can speak for hours. You know, it's a topic that requires, in fact, a full day of discussion. If you go around east and west coast for at least major ports, not the minor ports and the other private sector ports, most of the major ports have already saturated. Most of them have no physical space to develop, and we are running with almost capacity that was designed 30 to 40 years back. And try to modernize. This word modernization, I still remember visiting almost all ports. The infrastructure in terms of physical structures, mechanical equipments, and the evacuation systems is as old as some of them are more than 30 years. And when we actually look at every year growth and project to ministry, project to the government, one thing normally we forget, the infrastructure is aging, and timely intervention to identify whether what capacity was projected 30 years back, and we keep adding the capacity but not the infrastructure enhancement, thinking that the system life is infinite. In fact, that's one thing that it is in the minds of most of them. I would not want to mention that the system can go on until some time. I think the critical identification at the time when it comes, then the system would fail. And that's one of the things that I have been mandating. I have been involved in the master plan of some of the major ports review as well as approval. Two things I wanted to mention about this infrastructure modernization. We should set a limit by which we should be able to replace. To do that, we need to develop something similar to corpus fund. When a new port is developed or new system is established, we need to have a corpus fund by which 50 years, by automatically it has got enough funding to start building a new one, keeping the old operations in parallel. If not, what is happening today, unfortunately, if you visit some of the ports, I'm sure many of the chairmen sitting here and other officials will agree, most of them have aged, and many of them many times have not gone underneath the deck, just above water. If you look at the roof, you will get amazed how they survive. Similar to humans, they also can survive for certain times. But God's sake, it's still operating. Then I would only suggest, when we plan every year renewal of the capacity, like 871 million metric tons, it's coming, it's able to do it, but at what cost? It is basically going on just because there were factor of safety available in the system. But when it comes to certain limits, we have to take a decision. That bold decision should come from the authorities to make sure that we replace, including physical infrastructure, evacuation system, as well the mechanization. During this process, instead of simply replacing, we should utilize the capacity building in terms of automation. I'm sure the whole day, I think many of the experts would have spoken about AI, supply chain management, IoTs. So many technologies can be incorporated, including some of the simple things which I was amazed. When I was practicing in Singapore, we used to have systems to even quickly berth, deberth, and system to monitor. Those kind of things were not available when I relocated to India, and then the first time we have installed in one of them in JNPT. Such improvements could also be part of the new master plans, which is taking a very miniature cost, which can improve the efficiency of the whole operations, including the overall efficiency of the system. So I'm sure those who are involved in managing the ports, I'm sure they will take note of this. One important thing I would say, corpus fund, which should be definitely a requirement today, because we find it very difficult at the time of replacement. Where is the fund coming from? How long it will take? And how to do that when operation is going to be stopped? Revenue will stop. Your overall output will come down. that means we need to have a replacement so that the same thing can be made. So sustainability on the port management as well as the capacity definitely require a very good master plan. Projection should be reasonable. In fact, one of the things that I wanted to talk with the chairman also. When we have been making master plan for the last 5 decades, every 5 years, 10 years, we need to relook at it. Look back, what was promised in the master plan 1 and what was achieved at the end of the master plan 1 before going into master plan 2, what went wrong? And if you look at those parameters, definitely you don't need to revisit or revisit with a new outlook. And that's something that definitely a point to make. So I hope that will happen in future. And the last, but not the least, I'm still finding it very difficult in the port sector. The technical manpower for the new world, the management systems are very poor. And I'm sure Ministry will take initiatives. In fact, last year we had some training, not only in technical, but also the management, logistics, and other infrastructure management systems definitely require a very good trained manpower. I'm sure private industries are doing much better than the government sector. So I would like to mention this in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So that is exactly where I think this collaborative partnerships involving PPP will be able to fit in and, address the very issue that you have mentioned. Thank you very much, sir. My last question for this session, for paucity of time, is to the speaker 3, Mr. Naveen Prakash. Mr. Naveen, you work on integrating express, ocean freight and air freight businesses and making it accessible to MSMEs. Can you tell us a little about your business that work to create apps that can make logistics costing easier to compute and more transparent? Could you tell us briefly?
Sure, ma'am. Actually, I represent the LCL sector, which is the smallest cargo in the ocean industry. We can carry even 100 kgs as one shipment of LCL. So, genuinely, our company is helping the MSME sector, smaller customers. For them, the price is very, very important to be competitive in the market, both inbound, when we import something, or when we export. So, most importantly, the accuracy is very much important when we're quoting a rate. Number one is that accessibility for a costing which is very transparent. So, as an organization, we already have an online quoting platform app. Customer can log in, they can check the price point to point from anywhere in the world, 2,500 port pairs that we connect. But we also upload our rates on a common platform, which is the marketplace, where not only me but my other competitors also place the rates, so that customer gets to choose the best which is available. Thirdly, now most of the shipping lines want to make booking directly with the customers, so they're encouraging the clients to go to the online and choose the port pairs where they want to pick up the rates. So they offer spot rates where you get much cheaper than the contracted rates. Then customers come back to us saying that I've got this rate, but just like booking an airline ticket, you might see that the ticket is cheaper online, but you still not a person who very much, person who doesn't do much business online. So you still depend on a travel agent to do your booking. So like that, they come to us and say, I saw the rates online for the shipping line, and I would like to get a better rate if you can get me through a contract. So yeah, rates wise very transparent, and we also into networks globally. Not only one, but 4 to 5 networks where more than 10,000 freight forwarders are in one particular network. They upload their rates online. So in a flash, we are able to get them possibility of 4 to 5 trucking companies offering from China for one particular cargo, depending on at what speed they wanted to be delivered to a port of loading in China, so that we can bring it to them, depending on the cost, what they're willing to pay. So yeah, the initiatives like this we are taking up for the customers on the transparency part of it. Secondly, we also help them. For last 15 years, my company has been issuing e-bill of ladings and e-delivery orders. That means that a customer doesn't have to come to my office. So going to the sustainability part of it, you don't have to travel all the way on your two-wheeler to come to my office, wait among the 15-20 people, wait for 2-3 hours to get your delivery orders. We do that online for last 15 years, we're doing that. As my organization, to talk about more about sustainability part of it, thanks to the chairman here, we started a shipping service between Chennai and Pondicherry, a vessel operation. We were carrying containers from Chennai to Pondicherry, and been tremendous support from the Chennai port and Pondicherry port also. Of course, we did the service because we've seen more than 6,000 to 8,000 containers moving by road between Chennai and Pondicherry, and we saw the possibility of doing it thanks to the union government also in Pondicherry, that they had dredged the port, and we were able to operate this service. Hopefully we'll start it again. We had some technical hitches with our ship, that we would start it again. So overall, if you see that, yeah, we're trying to do a lot as a small company. When we're talking about big ports and vessel owners, as a small organization, we'll also try to do our best for the industry.
Thank you so much. See, the sustainability, as we all know, I mean, we would have very much loved to touch upon the TBL, the triple bottom line. But again, this topic as it is something which can be debated for the whole day, because a lot of questions on sustainable port modernization and the green shipping practices which talk about alternate fuel, zero emission ships, etc. Collaborative and policy decisions and questions. The government policies to accelerate sustainable practices. There are a whole host of areas which could, use some deliberation, and of course technology-based questions. But again, I'm sure we will leave you with these questions, which will in some future date probably be deliberated upon. And thank you very much. I thank the panel members for the brevity and for their, for delivering according to the time. So with this, we end the session. Thank you very much.